Hello, Mira here from Buzz Career Counselling. And if you have been following me for a couple of years or even a couple of months, you will realize that I do things on the spur of the moment. It's a bit of a trait of mine. I know some of my clients are the same, that we thrive when there's lack of expectation, and we thrive when there's no time to overthink. Well, that's me. I'm one of those people. For all those organized people who like things to be ahead of time, then we are a little bit different. So anyway, I had a bit of a gap at 12 o'clock today, so I thought that I would set this up. Now, I'm also having a bit of a play around and trying to work out some technology and how to Zoom and live with Facebook. So if you're a tech head, you can help me do that. But anyway, in this session, and I'm recording this, so this can be shared back. So if you're listening, yes, it is recording. So if you're listening to this in the replay, drop in a hello and say hi, how you going? We are all off video, so all pajamas are welcome. I have a face treatment going on, so no one really needs to be exposed to that right now. But I'm still here and showing up and getting on with my job. So what I wanted to do, and I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and so this is why, spare of the moment, I had some time off at 12, so I thought I would jump on. And that is to actually put someone's resume up on the screen and be able to, go through it. I don't really advertise that I do resumes because not many career counselors do like doing resumes. It's not really our thing. However, when we work closely with clients, we really understand, what their strengths are, what their value is, what they can bring. Just like me being able to sort of jump on in about 15 minutes and do this, with no forward planning other than some thoughts in my head over the past week or so. But, what do you do naturally? What do you do really well? And when we work closely with clients, we start to really see that. Even just the way they show up for our sessions, highly prepared versus, storm in a second to go. So as career counselors, we have very good insight into people, into be able to, sort of read a resume and kind of go, you know what, that's not really representing you well at all. Sometimes in the past, when I had my office pre-COVID, and I used to do mock interviews with clients, and I really enjoyed reading their resume, an hour before the mock interview, and then seeing them turn up without knowing them at all, because it was such good insight. Then when I got to know them by working with them, I was like, well, your resume didn't show that, and nor did your interview. So this is where we're coming unstuck. The person I then got to know working with them as a client was far from the person in the resume and the interview. So it's really important, in the documentation as a resume, to be able to represent you and represent you well. This is why I don't like writing other people's resumes, because I think it doesn't really have their tone on it, and anyone in recruitment or career counselling, you would have read hundreds and thousands of resumes over the time, and they all are slightly different, and they need to be, because the people are slightly different. There's no one template. When I was doing workshop series, and one of those was resume writing, everybody was wanting a template, which I can give you a rough template. But again, it's still, there's no point in having headings that don't suit you. There's no point in, putting information, putting a massive heading. These are my achievements, when you really don't have any outstanding achievements. You still might be amazing at your day-to-day job, but they're not called achievements. Whereas someone else, you know, silently doesn't tell me that they've been awarded, you know, this, that, and the other. So it needs to match you, but it also needs to match the job you're going for, which is why I just said in that request, and don't worry, I'll do this again for anyone who likes to be prepared. But I just said in that request, send me your email, but also, send me your resume via email, but also to just let me know the jobs you're going for, because I might read a resume and go, that's fantastic. And then you tell me the jobs you're putting in for, and I'll think, oh no, that's not matched at all. So understanding where you're going. This is when I stopped doing resumes, because I used to get new clients coming to me saying, I just need a new resume. And I'd say, sure. Sorry, that volume's been down. Just need a new resume. And I'd say, sure. What jobs are you going for? I don't know yet. And I would turn them around and say, no point in spending money with me to work on your resume when you don't know the jobs you're putting in for. Why? Because your resume has to adapt. Now, it needs to adapt to every single job application, but at least we can have, you know, a general resume that's suited for a particular job. Not a general resume that's suitable for many different types of industries and jobs and admin and retail and hospitality. No, that doesn't work. You can create a general resume, which, you know, I have myself for, you know, maybe training jobs. And so then that's the basis if I was to go for any training job, and then I would adapt it to that particular ad. So having said that, I'm just checking. I haven't got any brave people who have jumped in. Let me just check in here. And here. Okay, so no one's been brave and jumped in with their resume. If you do, when I do this again, if you do send it in, I would just block out your phone number and your email address and your referees, because no one needs to see those for me to work on it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do mine. And if I get anyone's dropping in, I'll keep checking my emails. And if anyone drops in their email or is brave enough to, please do so. All right, so what I'm going to do is screen share. There we go. So what I've got, I just quickly jumped in. I don't know which copy this is because I didn't look strongly enough. But this is one of my recent resumes. Okay, so you don't need me on the side. All right, so you should be able to see that. Okay, so this is my resume, and I tend to keep, you know, any sort of letterhead or anything like that fairly simple. As a, you know, there's so many different ones out there, but I like simple resumes. I'd rather people focus on what I'm saying than, you know, too much graphics. Too much graphics these days is not liked by computers. Oh, what was I doing? I was in a webinar the other day. No, anyway, I'll share it when I find it. So this is mine. I have managed to get it onto 3 pages. Oh, I normally have the pages marked. Anyway, this first part here is summary. So I'm just going to go through this one fairly briefly to give you a bit of an idea. Don't ever copy someone's resume, because can you imagine in person, but more so a computer will pick up if 2 resumes are exactly the same. But imagine a person as a teacher, when you'd read things exactly the same, both people are wiped out. So please don't ever copy anything word for word, not from mine, not from seek.com, not from, you know, any sort of career templates that you might find. Please only use it as an example and then turn it into your wording, because that would just be the absolute worst for you to be found out that you've copied. You'd be written off straight away. So summary here, we don't tend to write an objective anymore. The last couple of years, you might have had something that was an objective because all of a sudden, employers wanted people to be thinking about their career direction and their career pathways and where they want to be in 5 years' time and yada, yada. Well, now that became a little bit too much about I want. It was a little bit of a Christmas wish list and all about me. Whereas these days, it's more about the employer. What did they need? What does the business need? What can you bring to the business? What value can you offer? So the objective went out the window. And you notice I don't have a photo. You can Google me and see me everywhere. I don't need to waste precious time, precious space on my resume with a photo. So don't recommend photos. So summary, just a quick caption of who you are, what you've done, what you're about, and it needs to be relevant. So this summary will pretty much change for the jobs you're going for if they're different. So just really concise, really succinct, this is who I am, this is what I am about. Effectively communicating with a natural interest in mentoring and guiding others to be successful in education, training, and career development to achieve sustainable outcomes in the world of work. Fairly clear. I could be even more direct depending on which job I was going for. Personal skills, you don't have to put these in. They fall short a little bit. They're kind of just words that you have decided you are, whereas it's far more effective to have them in here. I don't know, for some reason I like them, but you definitely don't have to put them in. Sometimes their specific sort of technical skills might be helpful. So, if you've got some software that they're expecting to tick off, then you could put that in there as well. I'm just checking my inbox, sorry. So personal skills, or sometimes people have personal attributes, they need to be fairly relevant. So again, that would need to change, but you don't need them at all. Key achievements. Now, this is, again, only if it's relevant to what you're doing. Only if these key achievements are going to really make the reader go, oh, wow, that sounds great. So for some jobs, they might read these and go, so, no big deal, we all do that. Or that's not really relevant to this. So make sure your key achievements are definitely key achievements for the job that you're going for. Okay, if not, remove them. You could just have maybe one or two, but don't put them in just because you want to sort of brag about yourself when it doesn't make any sense. So then we go on to employment history. I have, so now if you're just scanning, some resumes get 20 seconds. So you imagine this popping up on your screen. You are you're a recruiter or employer, or you've been told you need to screen all these resumes. You've got 500 coming in. You need to cull it to 6. You're going to give just a quick skim, so you're not going to read much. That's probably even a bit wordy when I look at it. So you're going to skim down here, which is why we don't have the place highlighted. Some people have this part highlighted, and then I would see Buzz Career Counselling, Steps, Serena Russo, Solutions for Learning, and I'm still not getting an idea of who you are. So definitely highlight the job you did, career counselling, employment service trainer, industry trainer, program developer. So they go, oh, okay, so my 20-second scan, do I want to look a little bit harder in this one? Education liaison officer, primary teacher, she's got okay, all right, so now we're on the right pathway. Let's go back and do some reading and have a bit more of a thorough look. But that 20-second scan, these sort of things here where your eyes go, get someone to do a 20-second scan on yours. What does it look like? But you want those headings to stand out as bold. Okay, so there's so much I want to say to you. I could talk for hours on this resume. Anyway, I'll keep going with just some points. So employment history, now we don't just have the tasks in here, all right, because tasks read a little bit like a job description, which you should get from every job you do, because it's very good to put into your resume. But you want to also tell us how you do it. So I don't just work with the client. I actively engage with the client. I don't just create action plans. That's a task I do. I collaboratively create them. So with the client, facilitate workshops. That's sort of quoting a few places that I've been, so giving a bit of credibility. Develop new business opportunities through social media. So it's saying a little bit more than just career counselling, administration, communications, and financial. So, but these are the key ones here, these first 2 or 3. If I was going for an admin job, then I would move this one up to the top. Quite often I shuffle these. Sometimes I drop some out and sometimes I add other ones in. What is it from my job as a career counsellor that's going to be impressive for the job I'm going? That's what you need to ask. When career counsellors and recruiters say, tweak your resume, this is what we're saying. What is it from this job that is going to be impressive for where I'm going? So if I was going for, let me see. So if I was going for, say, the job I had with the local school in transition officer, then I would want to be putting in far more about communicating with community members, communicating with stakeholders such as parents, or you know, in this job I might be in communicating with employment agencies. So sort of showing that I can, you know, jump on the phone, or I can drive down to places and I can go, hi, this is, you know, and sort things out or communicate. So that's a big part of the job I was going for. So I would need to pull out those skills from this job as a career counsellor. Does that make sense? So these dot points are going to change every time you apply for a job. All right. So whatever is impressive, because I do more than that, I could expand out that massively. I'm running a business. You know, I'm a career counsellor. I'm working at a local school. So I could push this right out, but I need to just keep it relevant to the job I'm going for. If I'm going into employment services, or if I want to go and work, you know, at a university, then I would include in here just how, you know, how many clients that I'm working with who are halfway through university degrees, who are in their graduate year, you know, completely lost. So I would pump that up into here, because that's another element that I do in my job. So that makes sense. So here, this one was volunteering. This is when I was studying. And this job here, or wasn't really a job, I was volunteering. I was doing 3 hours a fortnight. Get that round your head. 3 hours a fortnight was all I was doing to commit to this role. I did it for quite some time. Kind of became a little bit like Kramer and a bit of part of the furniture, even though I wasn't employed. But I was using it for, you know, to assist my studies and giving me some, you know, some networking, but also just some experience working with people a bit different to what I had previously. So there it is there. And you could even put, I don't know if I got that, I could even put it here, and I could even do that, which would be even less obvious. And again, when you get that 20-second scan, you're just getting this. Oh, I've recognized that I was only volunteering, but hey, I was still doing the job. So yeah, so volunteering can be put in here as well. And if you want to change that to work history, rather than employment, because employment might mean paid. But as long as you say, you know, I wasn't getting paid here, I was just volunteering, it's not wrong, because I still did 2 years of, you know, 3 days a fortnight, but it was massive skill development for me. Notice I haven't got dates there. Some people put July to, you know, it was January to December. It was for the full year. It gets a bit messy. I don't put months in. I think years are plenty, you know, really. We want to know what you're doing, and months just gets a little bit too much. So you know, for the year of 2014, that was my job. Now this is another one here. I did multiple jobs. So what I've done is I've used my layout. So see here, it's in line here, but then I've said various jobs at Solutions, and these were the various jobs I had. I had 4 different jobs over the 4 or 5 years that I was there. So quite often when we've got that, so it just saves another line. It saves putting Solutions for Learning under every single job that I had in that space. But it just, if I just kind of said I was trainer and this is all the things I did, it'd kind of get a bit messy, and I think you'd get a bit lost and think, what was she doing? So I've just split it up into sort of the 4 different roles that I had within that space, because it did change over time. And I see that a lot in resumes where people have jumped, you know, you've changed positions but not changed employer. So that's just a way of putting it in. I just tabbed that across to kind of recognize that it's all under this umbrella here. You want it to be as clear as possible. I would move that down there. What else did I want to mention? Now, this is super old, but it was put in there because I was going for a job at a school. So it was showing, and I could put relevant. Yes. So it just acknowledging that's a bit old for the resume, but it's worth mentioning for this particular job. And again, that may change. I could have another job from years ago. Sometimes people will put that in when, you know, 20 years ago they owned their own business, where you learn to sink or swim, and you know, if they're going excuse me, if they're going for, you know, business management, or you know, senior officer in you know, managing staff, or something that's totally relevant to this job you had years ago, just put something like that in, which sort of recognizes that it's a while ago, but hey, I've still got the skills from then, or I developed the skills back then. Particularly when you're changing industries and you might not have done it for a long time and you're coming back into that industry. Or in my case, I'm a teacher, so you know, that just proves my massive knowledge of schools, and I worked at, you know, remote schools. I kind of just summarized a little bit of differences I had as a primary teacher. Excuse me. Now I also put in affiliations that I or networking if it's relevant. There must have been a reason why I was putting this in, but only if it's relevant. Education and training. Now this is the way that it is laid out. So this is pretty standard. Don't muck around with this, because it's how people expect it to be. This heading here, Bachelor of Teaching, needs to be what's on your certificate. So don't lose those certificates, even if you take a screenshot of them so you know what they are, but don't lose them. Hang on, I just realized. Anyway, don't lose them, because yeah, take a screenshot so you've always got them. But this should be, don't just guess it, this should be the code. Google it, go to myskills.gov, it's got all your certifications in it, or course finder. Sometimes things change names, but you know, get the name that it was when you got the certification, because it's highly likely that when you are employed, if you need it, you need to show proof of it. So you should have a a folder with them all in there, because once you get employed, you're going to have to take them in. So you say the name of the course, and if there's a code, comma, where you did it, and then you can put a comma or hyphen, the year you got it. So that has two, because I actually did it in 2009, and then I did the upgrade in 2013. But usually you just say the year you achieved. You don't need to say, oh, I started in 1992 and then I finally achieved it in 2021. Just the year you achieved that certificate. All right. You can put in there, sometimes I take some of these out if I haven't got enough room. If you've got too many, I know there's someone in my one of my groups who has oodles of these, and you need to kind of maybe group them, or you know, put a note in there that further studies, and you know, please contact me or something like that. But make sure it's relevant. It's going to mean something. You know, don't just put in there some random course you did that's not going to sort of impress them in any shape or form. You could put in there, sometimes people need multiple licenses, or, you know, sort of certifications, such as, you know, forklift license, or particular car or truck license, blue card, white card, yellow card, any sort of cards that you might have as well, put them in, because it just ticks it off in people's head. They don't think, oh, has she got that? I don't know if she's got that. So, and then referees, I've blanked them because you don't need to see them, but I've just got the name, how I know them, or if where they are working now, and if they're not working in the same place, I'd put in brackets previously employed, you know, Education Queensland, so they know where the link is, and then just their phone number. So that's a bit of a snapshot, couple of things that I would look at with mine. When you're sort of looking at, I did something the other day and I can't remember where I was learning it, but it was looking at this sort of ratio, paper to text, and the brain kind of can't cope if there's too much. I think that's why I kind of like that a little bit. It kind of gives a bit of spacing, but what's your line spacing? You know, you don't want it to be, if that was, say, squished up, you know, it just gets a bit hard to read. You can see the difference there. You might want to put that one up, but then if you did that, you'd want to make a bit more of a gap there, so I could, you know, get that point in, but then have a gap for that next one. So just watch your spacing, use your you know, technology to make it readable. You don't want it too squashed, and be consistent. If this heading is 13, then they're all job titles, so they're different, then this heading should be 13. So it makes it much easier to read if you've got consistency with your layout. That's something I always pick up. If you're going for an admin job and you haven't got these things lining up, I wouldn't employ you. I wouldn't want anything going out from my business that wasn't, you know, neat and tidy as a document. So be really careful if you have to do documentation as part of your job and your resume is kind of a bit skew-if. It's not impressive, just visually it's not impressive. And think about it, recruiters need to cull. We were in a webinar, we were in a workshop, face to face and all, with Michelle from East Coast Recruitment, is it called? And one of the agencies, and she said one way she culls them is if people have misspelt her name, because it was a very unusual spelling, which I thought was pretty ruthless. It's like, you know, someone not getting Mira right. It's a bit hard. You might think it was a typo to begin with and you were editing, but anyway, she can cull like there's no tomorrow just because you spelt her name incorrectly. So be mindful of ways that people may cull you. And if this is not, you know, if this was you know, if that was there and it didn't line up, I'd be thinking, And I'm not very pedantic with many things, but I do like a resume to have that same layout. You know, this is in exactly the same. And oh, that's because I moved it down. That was in. I brought it down from up here. I don't know why this is on Pages. So yeah, make sure it is just really easy to read and your layout is consistent. Don't change font, don't change sizes of font. This is all 11, which I think is pretty good. If I made that's got spacing in there, so it's easier to read. But if I made that 10, it's still readable, anything between 10 and 12. But if I made it too big, I'm going to if I made it too big, I'm going to assume that perhaps you're a bit blind. See how it starts to not look like the correct document. So I like 11 and then have my headings at 13. Any questions? Just send them through to me. See if we can get your resume looking good. There's so much more. I've got an entire workshop booklet here. I have posted a YouTube video about the headings, so take a look at those as well. These are the headings I've chosen for me. But again, you know, I see everyone's resume is completely different. But definitely a summary, not an objective. I do like to put in my referees because I think, you know, they're probably going to need them. It's a little bit optimistic that they'd like to contact my referees. So I put them in, they're there ready to go. Some people put, what do they put? Contact referees on request or something like that. That's okay. These referees do change too. It's not always the same two people. Whoever's going to be most effective to explain my skills and strengths related to the job I'm going for. Make sure you've contacted them and they're heads up that you're applying for jobs at the moment. Okay, so that's basically my resume at the moment. And yeah, love to see yours next time. Drop your comments in if you're watching this on the replay, or if you've got anything to share or something that you've learned from yours or feedback you might have received so far from jobs, you know, drop in the comments. I'd love to see that. Let's get these resumes looking good. Okay, now if you want this to be your resume next time, send me an email with your latest resume. Block out your contacts. Everyone's got these, so I've left them on, but block those out. Block out your referees contacts, and I can jump up and do yours. Okay, have a great day. Hope everyone's staying well. If you're on the coast or southeast corner and you're in lockdown, keep surviving, and we will chat soon. Bye.